you are a kinky bitch. And I don't mean in bed, although there's no judgment here. I mean in your behavior. I don't mean sexually. I mean psychologically. Because your brain has learned to get turned on by struggle. And if you don't believe me, stick around for this video because I'm going to help you identify and actually be able to spot your kinks so that you can have the rebrand that you want in 2026 without these sneaky little turn-ons pulling you back to where you don't want to be every single time. Because some of you are not just stuck in these unhelpful behaviors, unhelpful patterns, these little things that you do that just frustrate you, these personality traits and quirks that you have, right? No. You are literally turned on by them because some of you aren't just stuck in patterns or like unhelpful behaviors or these things that you do, these like little habits or personality quirks that you have, because spoiler, they are not personality quirks. They are things that you have been trained over time to do. And you have also been trained to get literally fucking turned on by them. So that's what I mean when I say that you and your brain are kind of kinky, girl. So look, you tell yourself that you want more. You want more money, you want more freedom, you want more confidence, you want more friendships, you want more love, you want more impact. You want a life that is finally working for you rather than against you. You want a life that you have been edging towards for so long, but have never quite actually achieved. And you've said it. We're halfway through January now. You've said it. 2026 is going to be the year that you achieve it. But it won't be until you understand this. And listen, when you say that you're ready to blow shit up in 2026, I believe you. But there is also something that I need you to know about, to understand before you can go and do that. Because I also know in and amongst that, there is also a deeper part of you, a quieter part of you, a bit that's buried way deep down there that keeps choosing the shit that you don't want. The buried part that is also the very same reason you haven't actually got to, that blow up season that you've wanted all of this time. Why it's now on your vision board for 2026 rather than it being the thing that you achieved in 2025. And this is not a part of you that has some grievance. It is a part of you that is, she's not confused, right? She's not confused. She's turned on. She's literally turned on. She is turned on by the struggle, the overwhelm, the procrastination, the chaos, which when you think about it is kind of kinky, right? Because while one part of you is manifesting and rebranding yourself in line with this new life that you want, another part of you is secretly getting off on all of the things that mean you keep repeating the old one. And so what happens is that you say you want more income and yet somehow you keep hitting the same invisible ceiling on how much you're bringing in every year, no matter how hard you work. You say you want better relationships, whether that's familial, with your friends, whether it is romantic relationships, and yet you keep finding yourself drawn to arguments or maybe even to people that feel strangely familiar, but not in the good way, right? That you find yourself attracted to people that are not comforting, but like, why does this keep hurting? Why do I keep getting attracted to these men or these people that put me in fucking chaotic situations and make me feel shit about myself? You say you want to express yourself. You want to be more authentic. You want to tap into your creative side more to build something meaningful, either in your life, your work, a project, a side hustle, a new hobby, but you want to tap into that part of you. But the moment that you sit down to actually do it, to create, to paint, to start recording a YouTube video, to create a podcast, every critical voice that you have ever heard or experienced in your friggin' life suddenly shows up, suddenly starts yapping in your ear, whispering sweet nothings, and suddenly all of the washing up feels super urgent for you to do. Suddenly you remember like the 10 piles of washing that have been waiting, or, the kitchen is spotless, but all of a sudden it has to be done then and there, right? And you get pulled away. You want to feel proud of yourself, but every single time, maybe when you sit down to do some journaling or just to sit down and be like, I want to feel confident, I want to feel proud of yourself, and you put yourself in a position to sit down and actually think about it, all of a sudden, your mind only wants to replay all of the stuff that you didn't do, all of the stuff that went wrong, all of the open-ended loops that you haven't actually finished today, instead of letting you feel 1 second of satisfaction. That is not a coinky dink. That is conditioning. That is kink conditioning. So by the end of this video, you will be able to spot the exact patterns that your brain keeps getting turned on by, so that you can stop letting your limits seduce you, and so that you can actually swap them and start directing that same like pent up sexual brain energy towards the life, the rebrand that you actually want. And this doesn't let me be really clear. This doesn't become happen by becoming more disciplined and like retraining habits, because this is something I'm going to get into in the next video. But there is a reason that buying brand new the newest Grace Beverly productivity planner hasn't worked for you. You cannot discipline yourself into overcoming these patterns. Spoiler for the next video, but we're going to get into it. It's fine. You cannot force yourself to work harder in order to achieve the life that you want this year. You have to do it by actually learning to rebrand, not you, not your habits, but your desires. Okay, at the very deepest level. Now, we are not here to fix you today. This video is not to fix you and overhaul your life, but what we are going to do is expose something that I call your subconscious turn-ons. Okay, we're going to expose the loops, the kinks, because once you see them, you cannot unsee them. And once you see them and you're actually aware of them, they stop being this like, oh, I don't know what's fucking going on. Like, I really want this thing, but I just can't seem to stop doing, thinking, feeling X. That's what we're going to expose, because once we see them, you stop staying stuck in a way that is unconscious, in a way that is unclear, that you don't understand. And we're going to do it in such a fun way today, because when that happens, it becomes a choice. And I say this not to belittle you, because maybe you have spotted these a little bit, but you start doing it and being able to see it in a way that puts you back in the driver's seat. And if this is something you've experienced before, you've spotted these patterns, they've come to light, and yet you still haven't been able to break through the other side, you can feel your brain getting turned on and pulled back to doing the thing. It is not your fault. We're going to understand this by the end of this video as well, to actually see why your brain does this, why it gets so fucking turned on by things that make you feel sometimes so miserable, so stuck, so blurred and hazy. But it puts you back in the driver's seat because you start to be able to see that it is a choice. So let's get into this. Now, your brain has what we might call a sexual preference, okay? There are patterns that it gets just a little bit too turned on by. And it usually gets very turned on by the idea of keeping you looping in these patterns that it likes, even if those patterns are the exact ones that are keeping you stuck or away from the things that you really fucking want, that you actually really deeply desire. And it's why you're in constant cycles of things like only being able to earn a certain amount of money each month, like we said, no matter how hard you work, only being attracted to partners who, I'm going to phrase this in a very specific way, turn out to bear a very uncanny resemblance to your dickhead dad, your overbearing mum, the first person who broke your heart, like these types of patterns. Hearing the mean voice of your teacher at school in your head whenever you sit down to try and get creative, whenever you sit down to try and do an exam. So you end up avoiding those things, right? Overeating to cover up the endless feelings of shame, of guilt, of loneliness, of frustration, constantly feeling like you're being victimized, like your life would suddenly or finally all fall into place if these really rude, nasty people would just stop making it so hard for you, right? Having grand plans for the future but never getting around to actually taking the first steps to making them concrete, to actually making them happen. Maybe habitually seeking, without you knowing, habitually seeking approval, validations, doing things to get people to like you, despite not even actually really wanting to go and do these things, very people pleaser energy, or picking a fight with your partner the exact moment that everything starts to get really good. We've got a very clear picture of a lot of these, right? And you can pop in the comments what pattern you identify very deeply with here. Now, let me be really clear about something. These things, these patterns, these kinks, they are not sex, okay? Your kink is a familiar suffering. And I know that this is probably going to be a really bitter pill to swallow, so just have a glass of water, just take a deep breath, and we're going to shake this off. Okay, big realizations, big moments. This shit is uncomfortable, but we like getting uncomfortable in my world because you are going to feel so magnetic, and you're going to feel this rebrand happening in real time when you can get really honest with yourself about these kinks, because it is the familiar suffering, right? Your kink might be overwhelm, but because it makes you feel important. It might be procrastination that lets you sit in this lovely ecstasy bubble of feeling like you are sitting on undiscovered potential instead of proof, because that feels fucking scary, because it means stepping out into the world a little bit more, right? Self-criticism that keeps you striving for more and proving energy instead of actually getting there, because suddenly you lose a sense of purpose, perhaps. Chaos that gives you this sense of, or it gives you a story, right? It gives you something that you are constantly working towards, or you've got things going on that give you a sense of safety because you are doing things instead of being still, being in stillness, right? And a lot of these are what your system and your brain gets turned on by, because it's not because you love pain. Let me be very clear. You might not consciously identify with being someone who is chaotic in a painful way, or someone who loves fucking being overwhelmed. We hate it, right? It really fucking sucks. But what we have to be so clear about is that it happens because pain is something that at some point probably taught you how to feel alive. It gave you a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, a sense of validation in how you were feeling, or what you were doing, or what you were working towards, right? And when something has that kind of intensity, when it has that kind of meaning, when it's given you that kind of attention in the past, your brain learns to crave it, right? And it is not a weakness of yours, or that you need to judge yourself for whatsoever. But this is that conditioning that we talked about, just doing its job a little too well, just a little too well. And so you don't just fall into these states, right? We become attracted to them over time. It's conditioning. You remember Pavlov? If you've ever done A-level psychology or psychology of any degree, the bell, salivating, right? It's literally conditioning over time to the point that you don't even consciously know that it's happening. And so you don't just fall into these states, you become attracted to them, because it's not a logical thing. It's almost in a very visceral way, right? The same way that you are attracted or drawn to certain types of people, to certain types of energy, certain dynamics, certain emotional highs and lows, right? Your system doesn't just respond, or your brain doesn't just respond, or your life in that way doesn't just respond to what's good for you. It responds to what feels charged, to same intensities, right? To same familiarities. Because for a lot of you, peace has never felt exciting. Calm and stillness has never felt safe. When you actually think about it, ease has never felt like an achievement. Pressure, however, feels important. It gives you a sense of meaning, the same way that struggle feels meaningful. Being the one who is always working so hard or working on herself feels noble. It's this badge of honor that we end up wearing. So even when you say that you want a calm, a grounded and easy life, you just want everything to come to you, you want 2026 to feel so fucking good, another part of you is getting off on the hard life, right? No pun intended there, but the hard life, right? It is kinky, therefore, the way that you choose overwhelm. It's kinky the way that you choose to procrastinate. And I say choose very intentionally, again, not with judgment, but to help you bring awareness to this. It's kinky the way that you choose procrastination, even though you know exactly what actions you need to take. You know exactly what would move things forwards. It's kinky the way that at the end of the day, you sit there and mentally list everything that you didn't do, everything that you didn't do well enough, instead of actually letting yourself feel the satisfaction, the wins, the sense of achievement that you fucking deserve. It's kinky that you choose to punish yourself instead. She's a kinky bitch, right? Can we own that label now a little bit? Because your brain eats this shit up. It loves it, but it's because its only job is to keep you safe. And if you want to learn more about this, go and watch my last video because I delved deep into this at an identity level, the lowest friggin' level of your brain, why your brain does this stuff. But it's because it just wants to keep you safe. And so somewhere along the line, it will have learned some really like funky equations. Maybe it learned that pressure equals productivity, that ease equals laziness, that victimhood equals love and affection, validation, maybe satisfaction equals complacency. And so when those rules are in your life, and you're almost like your North Star and your guiding light, again, not in a way that you will have realized, but when they are, and they are there for long enough, they stop feeling like beliefs and they start feeling like personality. This is just who I am. And all of a sudden, you're not someone that just sometimes struggles. You are a struggler. You are not just someone who is a little bit overwhelmed every now and again. You are overwhelmed as a person. And it's not because this is who you actually are. It's because this is how you learned to belong. This is something you internalized that you had to do or had to cling to in order to be or to receive the things that you wanted. Of course, your system keeps pulling you back to stress instead of peace. Of course, it keeps pulling you towards drama and chaos instead of calm. It pulls you towards self-criticism instead of self-trust, because these are the things that it has learned throughout your entire life. And according to those rules, the things that you've absorbed, that is what makes you worthy. That is what makes you feel fulfilled. That is what makes you feel validated. It keeps you loved. It keeps you safe. And because you have spent so much of your life repressing these truths, never questioning them, never naming them, maybe never even being aware of the fact that they existed, the fulfillment that your brain chases doesn't actually feel like fulfillment to you at all, right? It doesn't feel like joy, peace, ease. It ends up feeling like frustration, injustice, outright despair, because you have spent so much of your life repressing these truths, never questioning them, never naming them, maybe never even being aware of their existence in the first place. The fulfillment that your brain now chases feels the exact fucking opposite of fulfillment, right? It doesn't feel like joy. It doesn't feel like ease. It doesn't feel like peace. Instead, it actually feels like injustice, stuckness, frustration, maybe even like outright despair. And so your brain has now learned, and it believes that struggle means that you're doing life right, and that those things, the ease, the peace, mean that you are doing it wrong. So when I say that your brain literally gets turned on by these patterns, I am not being dramatic. I mean that your system has literally learned to associate those emotional states with survival, with belonging, with value. And so to your brain, those things are fucking magnetic. Yeah, they're kinky, they're turn-ons. They're like, yeah, bring them my way. Thank you very much. Even at your expense, even when it hurts you, even when it limits you, even when it keeps you stuck and pulled away from the things that you want, the things that you want to go after, even when it is the exact thing that is standing between you and the life that you fucking want. This is why you can't just think, vision board, dream your way out of it. And this is why you cannot just think, journal, manifest, affirm, work harder, discipline yourself out of these things, because what you are fighting is not a habit. you are up against a belief that has been seducing you, turning you on for years. And until you see this, until you name the rules that you have kept living by, you are going to keep wondering why you want more, why you can so vividly see the life that you want, but you still keep choosing and pulling yourself back to the same emotional reality, the same kinks. So this is not about fixing you. This is not about rebranding you. This is about rebranding what you are attracted to. And girl, I know 10K months, a fucking juicy bank account, the love of your life, the most sexy man or woman to walk the freaking earth in your life is attractive. I know that being the woman who wakes up at 6 a.m., has an entire day before her working day starts is attractive. I know starting your YouTube, being known, building an entire community, getting brand deals is attractive, but it's not to your brain. And that's what we need to rebrand rather than just trying to do these surface level fixes. Because right now, part of you is still emotionally loyal to being the one who is always catching up. The one who is always doing stuff, who's always on the move, but never actually able to rest. You are loyal to proving yourself. You are loyal to being the one who has big goals, but never quite makes it. And until that loyalty shifts, your goals will always feel like a fight. And it's not because you don't want them or don't want them enough, right? It's because they threaten the version of you that feels known, that feels therefore safe to your brain. But imagine being turned on by something else. And as I say this, I want you to feel in your body the grounded sexiness in this. Imagine being turned on not by chaos, but by clarity, being turned on not by stress, but by certainty. Not being turned on by drama, but direction. Imagine literally craving in your fucking soul the way that you've craved everything else. Follow through, self-trust, ease, peace, groundedness, confidence. This is the dominant energy that we want to rewire. This is the real fucking kink upgrade. This is the rebrand that's actually going to last, that's actually going to stick in 2026. So here's what I want you to notice. I want you to pay attention to and think about the last time that things were going really well for you. Maybe your income was coming up. Maybe all of a sudden you just felt so attractive and everything in your life you felt so magnetic. It was just being pulled towards you. If you're on social media, think about the last time that your followers were really growing, where your impact was so obvious, where you felt your life's purpose so clearly and none of those stories were coming up. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but it was better than usual. I want you to pay attention to this, where you had more clarity, where you had more momentum, you had more stability, you had more results happening. What happened next? Did you suddenly feel overwhelmed? Did you suddenly create a problem where there wasn't one? Did you start picking fights? Did you start picking holes? Did you start to lose focus, to lose clarity and lose sight of what you were doing or what you were working towards? Did you drop the ball on something? And you won't have done this consciously. This will have just been automatic without you realizing. But actually stop for a second, go at the point that it was really about to blow up, or at the point where it was about to start feeling easy, at the point where it was starting to feel like this was just how things are for me now. What happened to make it so that that wasn't so? Because for a lot of us, ease doesn't feel natural, but struggle does. And so your brain will find really sneaky, kinky ways of pulling you back. So now you know the truth. And it's not a pretty one, but it's the truth. It's the raw one. It's the powerful one. It is the thing that's sitting underneath it all. Because these patterns are not accidents. The suffering isn't random. The frustration is not just plucked out of thin air, which means that your rebrand it's not going to start with a planner. It's not going to start with a new 6 a.m. morning routine. It's not going to start with a new gym routine or program. It's not going to start with a new outfit. It starts with conscious seduction. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to get so fucking good at identifying your kinks, whether it is overwhelm, procrastination, avoidance, defensiveness. Identify your kink. And you can do this. You could literally overhaul, if you wanted to, your entire life. Look at your relationship kinks. Look at your gym or training kinks. Look at your work kinks. Look at your creative kinks. Look at your rest or your burnout kinks. There will be so many, but just look at them. And I want you to pick one for right now, because we're not feeding into this overwhelm anymore, because that's hella fucking kinky. And I want you to literally write this out and imagine scenarios. And I'm going to tell you actually a really good story that happened with one of my clients. And she was completing a check-in, because every single week I have my clients fill out a form. And this is in between the one-to-one deep dive calls that we have, where we go in to all of this, just to touch base, to make sure that we're still getting the clarity and we're also moving the needle. Because this is a little spoiler for the end of this, this framework that I'm giving you of how to actually move through these kinks. But we want to make sure that we're moving the needle. We're taking action in this rather than just sitting in all of this awareness and not doing anything about it. And so my client was filling in this check-in form for me, and we came to the deep dive call, and all of a sudden she was like, I literally was just sitting there and I was writing out everything that I didn't do, everything that I was disappointed with. And I actually have a very specific part in my check-in forms that get my clients to celebrate their wins, because it is a pattern disrupt. It gets you then and there to actually talk about all of the things that deserve celebrating, to go, no matter how you're feeling, I don't care how shit your week's been, there are things that deserve celebrating. And this is the energy that we're going to bring. Do you want to know why? Because it starts creating safety and evidence that you are the person who follows through. And anyway, this client came to the deep dive call and she was like, Beth, I literally was just writing down everything that I wasn't happy with, that didn't feel like it was good enough, that was incomplete. And I was like, that's kind of kinky. Tell me more. And she was like, I literally felt like I was sitting there and choosing to punish myself. Again, this wouldn't have happened on a conscious level. It's not something she realized she was doing until she looked back on it and she was like, that's very odd. Why was I doing that? And I took her through this exact framework. And literally not even a week later, overwhelm was a thing of the past, because she started calling herself out and her subconscious turn-ons, calling them out on their bullshit, and actually choosing to replace it very intentionally and very consciously with something else. And this is what I'm going to teach you, okay? So one, you have to identify your kick. In my client's case, it was choosing to punish herself because she was choosing and getting turned on by overwhelm. Because obviously if she's sitting there listing all of the things that were incomplete, that she hadn't done well, that weren't good enough, that weren't up to standards, then of course she's going to feel overwhelmed by all of the things that she does have to do, that do actually make her feel enough, because, oh my God, how much effort is going to have to go into that. What I then want you to do is to notice the exact moment that that kink kicks in. How do you know that your brain is getting turned on in that very moment? Is it just like my client, just as you're about to journal and you want to be a more positive or confident person in 2026, and that is part of your rebrand. But as you go to sit down and maybe do some gratituding or write a list of all of the wins that have come up in that day, your brain suddenly floods with all of the things that weren't wrong, didn't go well, that were wrong, that you didn't do or didn't complete. When your partner compliments you and you immediately go into dismissive, guarding, deflecting it all off. Midway through writing an email that you needed to do for work, maybe a post that you need to be putting on social media for your work, and you keep putting it off, or you've rewritten it for the 10th freaking time, or you're halfway through and then you start scrolling or doing something else or looking for inspiration, right? Or you suddenly get pulled to clean the kitchen for the 700th time that day, prolonging the discomfort. So I want you to identify the exact moment that that kink sets in, because again, this will give you clarity of where you get pulled back to safety through turn on. Then what you're going to do is call it out. Because stage one of this is always going to be awareness, but nothing changes if we are just aware of all the stuff that's happening and we're not doing anything about it. So what we then need to do is to call it out. And I literally want you to say to your brain, oh, hey again, you kinky bitch. I see what you're doing there. And this is a really important thing, because this is what we call a pattern disrupt. This pulls you out of the sequence of events. It's something that I talked about in the last episode as well. In the last video, if you want to go and watch that, I talked about how your brain has literal strategies that it plays out. And this is what I mean. This is a kinky strategy that your brain is eliciting with a very specific outcome of either not doing that thing or making you feel a certain way or taking action that is away from what you actually are trying to achieve. And so what you want to do is disrupt that pattern. And you can do this in tons of different ways: clapping, standing up, things that literally shock your subconscious and pull you away from the thing that it's playing out. But humor is a very powerful one. And this is why I want you to say this exact sentence. If you've ever seen The Devil Wears Prada, my one always, when I catch myself in these patterns or I'm doing something and I'm like, no, we want to change this and we want to change the strategy. The pattern disrupt that I always say is like, oh, don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Don't be ridiculous, Andrea. And I literally snap my fingers in this really dramatic way. And I sometimes stand up, like multiple things to disrupt the pattern. But humor is so fucking powerful because it stuns the subconscious and it kind of stuns it into submission. So we can be kinky right fucking back to your brain. Why not play it at its own game? And I literally want you to say, once you've spotted that pattern, you're seeing when it's coming in and you have the awareness, literally say to it like, oh, hey again, you kinky bitch. I see what you're doing. I see you playing out. Then what you're going to do is choose a different action. And this is where I'm going to give you guys some freedom. Because what I would actually say to what we say collapse time, i.e. to move the needle faster, to actually get speedier results, is almost to do the exact opposite, right? If you feel yourself procrastinating, sit down, set a 5-minute timer and say, we are doing it. And we are going all guns blazing focus for this next 5 minutes to finish this email, to finish this post, right? Maybe if you, your partner is complimenting you and you feel that guard come up and you're like, oh, you kinky bitch. I see you again, you kinky bitch. Lean in and be like, I know I do look beautiful, don't I? And it might feel fucking uncomfortable, but this is where we start to create new patterns. This is where we start to play our subconscious at its own freaking game, right? Lean the fuck in. But if that feels too much, do one step further of what you want to do, or like a watered down version, as it were, because you are still taking action. What specifically we're trying to avoid is not doing it, or calling it out and then still completing the pattern, or calling it out and then still doing the thing that is the opposite intent of what we want. So we want to make sure that regardless, we take action, because this is, like I said, what actually creates safety and starts telling your brain that like, this is safe. I'm not going to die by becoming a more productive person. I'm not going to die by becoming more visible online and actually putting that post out. I'm not going to die by putting myself out there for more judgment when actually I feel really good about this post. Or actually, this is something that I really want to say with my chest. I'm not going to die by going to the gym and actually working towards my results. I'm not going to die by pushing myself harder in the set when the easiest thing and what I really want to do is just fucking go home and sack it off. This brings me to the last point, and the most important one is to actually celebrate yourself for what you just did. And this is going to feel for a lot of you really uncomfortable, because this is the number one thing that I hear from my clients is that like, I feel really silly, or I feel really like big-headed for celebrating myself. Absolutely fucking not. If you actually want the results that you want, you have to be big-headed about the things that you're actually doing to get there, right? The same way that you obsess and you get so turned on by you, of course, I mean your brain, but the way that you get so kinky about punishing yourself, belittling yourself for not feeling good enough, for feeling like you're a failure if you don't do something. Think about how much fucking energy that actually takes up. And yes, because it's automatic, it might not feel that way, but imagine how much brain time and space and energy that actually occupies. Imagine putting that same energy behind something that's actually going to get you progressing, that's actually going to get you end outcomes of feeling so fucking good, so fucking confident, right? So the things that you are coming up that are brick walls, lean the fuck into them. Lean the fuck into them. So if it feels like it's a bit overwhelming or like a bit icky to be celebrating your wins, celebrate the fuck out of them. Because like I said, this gives your brain receipts. It gives it evidence to show that it is safe to be this version of you. And it also gets to be so fun. Imagine going to the gym and be like, I pushed myself so hard on that set. I'm so fucking amazing. I am so strong. I am such a hard worker. I am someone who follows through. Right? The more you repeat this, I wish I had my whiteboard. I was going to bring my whiteboard with me today to actually like show you this. But what happens is you imagine a tiny little bit of hair. We're going to go deeper on this just from like a neuroscience perspective. Imagine you have something that is so, okay, let's do this with my Stanley. So if we want to rebrand ourselves, we have got to get rid of this. Now we cannot just sack it off. We cannot just get rid of a pattern, a belief. We have to intentionally choose to replace it. And that takes time. This is why I say you're going to have to get a little bit uncomfortable, celebrating yourself, actually deciding to see yourself as this new version, as this rebrand, all the things that she does. I'm not someone who is overwhelmed or is an overwhelmer. I am someone who follows through. I am consistent. I am someone who does the shit that she says. And gradually over time, we start to create this. Now it's thinner, it's more feeble, but with time, this will start to thicken. And all of a sudden, they've switched. This is the old one, the old overwhelmed belief, right? And this is now who you, I knocked the mic, sorry. This is now who you actually are. This is the woman who follows through. And it's all because you intentionally chose to back that up with evidence. You intentionally decided to see yourself. You called out your kinks. You said, hey, bitch, hey, girl, I see you. I see you getting turned on. No, thank you. And you decided to go and do the other thing and celebrate yourself for it. You actually went and created evidence and safety that this is the new version of you. This is how you rebrand yourself at a subconscious level. This is how you create new subconscious turn-ons, new subconscious kinks that actually align with where you want to go this year. So let me leave you here with one thought. You can hide from your limits, but you cannot outrun them. And now that you can see those patterns, those kinks, those turn-ons, repeating it isn't actually unconscious anymore. It's a choice. Your kink is no longer in the shadows. It is literally standing there in front of you, blaring out a horn like this red stop sign. And every time that it shows up, you decide, do I go back to the old turn on? Do I feed the old kink that low-key made me feel like shit? Or do I choose the woman that I'm becoming? Do I choose to start getting so turned on by my potential, by the safety, by the ease of everything that I actually want? So that safety stops meaning overwhelm and it starts meaning follow through. It starts meaning self-trust. It starts meaning ease. And I'm not going to lie, is a much sexier outcome, quite honestly, right? So much sexier. That is so much kinkier than all of the other shit, right? So this is about being so aware of your brain's tendencies and choosing to use that awareness to bring back control, to actually go towards the things that you want rather than just letting your brain have its way with you. So this is what I want you to do. Spot your kinks, call them out and find the exact moment they come in, call them out when they do, pattern disrupt them, choose a different behavior and then go and celebrate yourself for that behavior because this is how you choose to actually have a rebrand at the deepest fucking level and be so kinky, so turned on in all of the best possible way. So I hope that you have loved this video. And as always, if you have, I would love for you to hit subscribe because you're going to get weekly videos on how to brainwash, rebrand yourself and make the subconscious sexy in how you actually do that so that you can make 2026 and beyond. If you are finding these videos in the future, this will never ever die. This will never stop being relevant, but so that you can make the life of your fucking dreams, the life of your reality by going to the actual deepest layer. If you liked this video, please like it, comment, tell me what you loved about it. Tell me what you would love to know more of and how we can rebrand you. Thank you so much. I love you so much. I really hope that you go and apply this because I know you're a kinky bitch, but I know you want to have the turn-ons that actually get you the life that you want. I will see you in the next video.